Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the legendary Dave Wakeling of The Beat and many other things as well. Dave, is it right now that you live in California?
I do. I've lived here for a while, longer than I lived in England, to be honest. So over 3 years here now. Southern California all that time. And oddly enough, I came chasing the sun, which I'm sure probably your listeners can understand.
Yes.
Now I'm getting old. Now I'm getting older. I've turned into my mom, and I hear myself complaining that it's too hot. But when I got here in my 30s, there was no such thing as too hot. But now it's like, oh, I can't think straight. So I'm more like an Arizonan. I really love the hot weather. I just stay indoors in air conditioning all the time, in the summer at least. But this time of year, it's absolutely splendid. It's gorgeous. It's already spring-like, which it always cheers me up a bit. It makes you feel spring-like yourself.
Yes.
Well, at least for the start of the day. It wears off, but, you can try.
Now, this is going to be a very awkward interview for me, because at the end of it, I'm going to end up with a Brummie accent. You see, I spent most of my life growing up in Birmingham, and as you can tell, I try to hide it.
My mum made us hide it. My mum was a Geordie and who trained herself to speak with a prim Oxford English nurse's accent. And so she drove the Brummie out of it. No ainting and dainting, David, she would say. But yes, I go back and I've got it straight away, and it's what I like.
That's what happens. You just fall straight back into it. Look, I've done it. I knew it would happen.
Well, they do say it's a wonderful place.
Yes.
To come from.
Yes. Now, The Beat were a brilliant band that came out with some fantastic stuff. I Just Can't Stop It, Mirror in the Bathroom, Hands Off She's Mine. They were just incredible anthemic tunes, if you don't mind me saying. How did you get the inspiration for those tunes? Because, that whole style of music was really, really good.
Well, there was a lot of different forces going on. Punk was just kind of fizzling out a bit. It was ending up as a bit of a ritual, and people had still got a lot of energy, but they were sick of being just angry all the time.
Yeah.
And two-tone, this mixture of punk and reggae and pop and soul hybrid came about to try and keep that energy up, but to have a slightly more optimistic feel underneath, at least. You could still rant and rave about the ills of the world, which was the fashion at the time, and we kept that going, but it did it to a happier sounding beat from a distance. So people said, "Oh, I like that one. That's cheerful."
Yeah.
And we actually found that you got your message across, which is. It's funny, isn't it, how things go round in circles. I watch the English news pretty closely here in America, Sky News, BBC, TV news at least, see what the newspapers are saying. And we could be back exactly when that first Beat record was being brought out.
Yeah.
It's the same argument as if the thing's gone all full circle. And, everybody's got their own opinion, and it was a long time ago, but at least to me, it seems as the trouble we've got ourselves back in the homeland is a direct consequence of what happened in 1979, 1980. This is Margaret Thatcher's promise, and she turned everybody into competitors instead of neighbours.
Yeah.
And you can only play to the worst of human foibles enough times, and then it'll start to happen. And it's a shame now, isn't it? I watch from a distance, still have relatives at home, and they go, "Oh, blimey, Dave, your songs would be relevant about today, wouldn't they?"
Exactly.
And I go, "Well, that's a shame. You would have hoped things would have been better by now."
Be a perfect time to re-release "Stand Down, Margaret."
Yes, well, they don't. I think, especially if you try to make a vinyl version of it, it takes so long to get vinyl produced nowadays that you'd be two prime ministers late. By the time the single hit the market, they'd have gone through 2 more.
Yeah, they probably
I don't
would.
know who's left. It's
Now,
it's a shame, but I suppose it's good, and it'll really help songwriters in England of this new and upcoming generation, because for better or worse now, England's on its Jack Jones, isn't it? It's off its Todd,
Totally.
and it's got to reinvent itself. You know, we're starting at the top. We're getting 2 new thrones built. So I mean, that's going to be like 4 master carpenters in Norfolk who are busy now.
Yeah, two proper artisans.
Make their sandwiches. You know what I mean? It spreads down, you see. But it's going to have to take a bit more than that, isn't it?
I reckon
and
it will.
is a shame. It's you know, I like living here in California. I do get homesick sometimes, even about Birmingham. I know you might find it hard to believe, but then I get back there, and I do miss. There's a wider sense of opportunity here.
Yes.
And there's I don't know, people just get on and people keep out each other's way here.
Mm.
You're just allowed to get on with what you got to do. And so long as you don't owe them $1, that's fine.
Now, look, when you were in the two-tone period,
yes,
that was such a melting pot of music, but also people. I mean, there was so many sort of characters.
yes.
What was it like being in that? I mean, were you all sort of mates, or did they sort of rub each other up and down the wrong way sometimes?
We were indeed, yes. There was nothing manufactured about that. It was odd. The Beat and the Specials got on terrifically well. We toured together in Ireland, particularly once we alternated headline bands and ended up both bands on stage at the end of the night. And it was a wonderful feeling. And not competitive at all. It was very supportive, and I think that sort of went mixed into the crowd as well. Perhaps from the Undertones and the Buzzcocks kind of vibe, where the band could be standing at the bar at their own concert, but they're dressed the same way as the audience, and there wasn't much of a barrier, you know. The Two-Tone seemed to carry on with that, the salt of the earth kind of attitude. So the bands were very accessible to the crowd, and the crowd liked that. And everybody had to have a dozen cigarettes backstage, out in the street around the back with dozens of fans. You know, probably didn't do our health that much good when you look back. But anyway, at the time it seemed okay. And what's odd is that. They're bringing it out again, aren't they? The Dance Craze film,
yes,
which has been remastered and the music's been redone. I saw some little bits of the film, and I got to say, it's incredible what they did. It was pretty good when it came out, and then over the last few decades, I think the same VHS copy has been copied and copied and copied. So it's the ones that you would see on social media, but really grainy. And it was filmed kind of dark anyway, so that it felt as though you were in the nightclub watching the band, you know. So it got hard to watch. But now I don't know how they've done it, but it looks richer and darker and deeper and more easily to see. It's a terrific job. I think with the modern technology, he probably could push it even further to what he was trying to achieve.
Incredible.
And yeah, it looks splendid. And again, watching it takes you back and looking at the crowd, and you remember the issues that were firing everybody up. You know, what were the headlines on the newspapers? And young people were feeling disappointed, you know. Johnny Rotten had said no future, hadn't he, some years before? And
yes.
everybody was waiting, and nobody corrected him. They're like, oh, so he was right then.
One of the things
people were frustrated, I think. But one of the nice things about Two-Tone was that mixture of reggae and punk, as you say, brought a lot of different strands of our culture together, and it was a diffusing and very positive effect at a time where there were those that were trying to start race riots if they could get away with it.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to start a race riot if the same people have all been dancing together on a Saturday night.
That's very true. That was something that was happening in Birmingham a lot. That's one thing I always remember with Birmingham, is that it didn't matter whether you were black or whether you were white. All that matters, you had a good time.
Yes, that's right. You had a good time and you watched your man.
Yes.
Otherwise, things could go sour very quickly. But
yes.
It does, and it still does, I think. We were lucky to grow up in Birmingham because of that.
Yeah.
It was a little bit ahead of other cities in terms of what they call race relations, although there is only one race, but we know what we mean.
Yeah.
Because blokes had been working in factory lines on the track for years. So a lot of that unknownness or suspicion or dislike or, prejudice, a lot of that had been knocked off each other by living their lives together 8 hours a day on the track.
Yeah.
And you start to realise that everybody's got a lot more in common. So pubs were more integrated in Birmingham before two-tone. We didn't realise that it wasn't the same everywhere. But it's odd because it was a kind of industrialised integration. Everybody got on because they had to, because they were all forced into the same area.
Yeah.
Get on with it. Oh, okay.
Hey, Dave, there's one thing that you were really, really well known for and recognised for, and that was that guitar, the white teardrop Vox guitar. How did you come about to choose that? I mean, it's not really that rock and roll, although I suppose it is really.
Well, Brian Jones, that's the answer. Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones, he had them. He even made Keith and Bill play one every now and then. There's some photographs, but he played one a lot, and I was obsessed with him as a kid.
Oh, right.
And, I haven't told many people this, but a second-hand shop at the top of Edward Road where I lived, they had a blonde wig, shoulder length. It was a bit curly at the ends, but I bought it with my pocket money. I didn't tell my parents, of course, and I cut it a little bit so it was straighter at the bottom. And as soon as they were out, I put the wig on and I got my cricket bat and used my mom's mirror, and I was Brian Jones. So it was kind of Brian Jones drag, I suppose.
Oh, brilliant!
So as soon as I was going to be in a group, I knew immediately. Oh, my dream was to get one of those guitars, and so I've played it ever since. And it's nice. You're right. It's not really a rock and roll guitar. It's more like a strumming guitar.
Yeah,
and that kind of suits me. Although I have a Keith Richard version of it that has a whammy bar and three pickups and a slightly harder sound, but I still can't do a solo, so it didn't help. It looks like I'm just about to pop one off, but I'm not. The only thing that's real awkward about them is they're really useless for playing sitting down.
Well, yes, they would be, wouldn't they? Yeah.
Useless. You have to hold it between your knees, but you feel like Sting with a lute. So, they have a stand that you can. You've never got that when you want to play guitar.
No,
there's a little stand you can put on your leg that steadies the guitar. But
now
that seems like
you're still touring, you're still performing, you're still out there doing it, which is fantastic.
Yes.
In America, you're known as the English Beat, aren't you?
We are indeed, yeah. A group just only a few months before had grabbed the name The Beat for the US, and we had to think of something else, and it had been suggested the British Beat or the UK Beat, neither of which we liked, and we went for a breakfast in a deli in New York, and saw English muffins on the menu, which of course They're not called English muffins, are they, in England?
No.
Well, they're not even called muffins in Birmingham. They're called poiklets, aren't they?
Yes, that's it, poiklets.
But anyway, that's a different... It's like a poiklet. Anyway, that's a different story. But we noticed that. And we said, well, what about English beat? They seem to like the word English over here in America. And we went in to the record company that afternoon and we said, what about the English beat? And they fell off the chairs. They thought it was that good. Oh, my God, they said. Marketing department doing cartwheels.
Yeah.
And so that was it. It would have been nice to have just been called The Beat. But we met the fellow. Very nice. They'd been in a group called The Nerves. And they wrote Hanging on the Telephone. Hanging on the telephone.
Oh, my goodness, really?
Blondie had the beat hit me. Yes. And then they split, the Nerves did, and became the Plimsolls and the Beat, the American version of it.
Yeah.
But we did a tour together, and we're good friends now. We did a tour together called Two Beats Hearting as One. We called it.
Oh, excellent.
Simplify matters. And all of the English Beat except me were American. And all of his band, known as the American Beat, all of his band were Australian.
Oh,
so we laughed our asses off of that.
Well,
that certainly solves any issue there. Now we know. Yes, so we were stuck with it. But I do tour a lot here, and about 2 or 3 tours a year. And so long as the concerts are the main priority, I actually do it better than ever.
Good.
It takes a bit more work. You have to make sure that you sleep, eat, take care of yourself, that sort of thing. But it's actually quite good. And it turns out that 90 minutes of ska is about the finest exercise you could get for somebody of my age. So I'd thought, that eventually the doctors were going to say it was time to hang up the boots. But at the moment, they say it's the best thing I could be doing.
Excellent.
Because it's very aerobic. You get through a lot of deep breathing, to do that much singing.
Yeah.
And I'm not running around all over the stage. I never used to, really. I stick close on the mic. But I enjoy the singing and trying to get it as better than the night before or better than I've ever done it. Or that sort of contest with yourself. And so I really enjoy it. We've got a tour coming up for about 3 weeks, a month. No more than a month now, I think that's at a time. Mm-hmm. You're just trying your luck past that, really. So, and then we have a little time off, and then we come to the UK at the end of May, just around the same time as the Two-Tone Dance Craze is being re-released. So I think it's the same week, which is weird because I'd love to say that was done on purpose with some marketing plan behind it, but no. By accident, a film of me doing a concert 40-something years ago is coming out the same week as we start our concerts.
Isn't that incredible? Cool. Brilliant.
Yeah, I know. I'm thrilled. And we start in Bexhill, so I mean,
Oh, God. Couldn't be better.
You can't beat it, can you?
Ska music for me, going back to the days of Prince Buster and all those sort of people.
Yes.
That was some amazing music, because obviously growing up in Birmingham, I used to go to the blues parties and things like that. And I was the token white guy. But it was an amazing time for music, wasn't it?
It was a real explosion, wasn't it? Because at the same time, like, white progressive rock was becoming ever more experimental and people were trying all sorts of different things. And then suddenly this influx and influence coming from the Caribbean and from Caribbeans who lived in Birmingham, who were now Brummie. And yes, it was, I suppose, a melting pot like it had become after and during the Industrial Revolution, it sort of happened again. There'd been some great groups had come out of Birmingham in the 60s, under the Fortunes and that.
Oh, yeah.
And then Traffic in the 70s, and The Move, and Nights in White Satin.
Oh, yes. And you got bands.
What's the name?
I was going to say you got bands like the Uglies as well, which went on to become.
But during our little period, it was really odd that so many groups, starting at Au Pairs, came out, and then UB40 and Dexys and The Beat, and then Duran Duran, all, and of course Steel Pulse right before that, which is kind of the period you're talking about.
Yeah.
That link up between black and white music, I suppose, that led to Two Tone, because you used to see Steel Pulses and Aswad, I remember, at quite a lot of punk shows if it was festivals, and they'd still be a strident message, but you could take a breather. You know, it was a bit like the chill-out room at a rave, wasn't it, having a reggae or dub band on in a punk show. And I think that's where the punky reggae party started. And, of course, Birmingham, not ideally situated for a lot of things, sometimes, apart from canals.
Yeah.
Turned out to be ideally situated, the Midlands did, for this hotbed of hybrid music between black and white culture.
Yeah. Well, look.
Black Sabbath.
Yes.
The best half of Led Zeppelin as well, really, you know. So, I suppose a lot of bands have always burst out of. I wasn't so keen on that Led Zeppelin reggae, so I mean, I thought Bonzo was a god, but not on reggae.
No.
You know.
Look, it's been an absolute blast talking with you. Thank you so much for your time. We wish you all the best.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much, and hope to see some people out there. Maybe we'll get to play the Dance Craze film on the screen before we go on.
Yes, that'd be good. Brilliant, Dave.
You look a bit younger, Dave.
Aged overnight. Yeah. Look,
well, you're the proof. You see, Scar keeps you cheerful.
You betcha.
Reasons to be cheerful, and thanks for a cheerful interview.
Thank you, sir.
Hello to all your listeners.
Thank you.
Cheers, boss.
Take care. Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye now.
Bye.